Hello, and welcome to the start of another weekly reading vlog. If you hear any extra noises, I'm sorry. Neighbors are home more, and apparently they're loud, at least it's louder for me. But let's get into the books I hope to read this week. So, to start off, I started Gideon the Ninth. This is what it looks like without the sleeve. I don't read with the sleeves on because, I don't know, they get in the way and I don't want to hurt them. But this is on the science fiction and debut category for BookTube SFF, so I wanted to read it. And unless something changes dramatically, because I'm like 150 pages in, this is a fantasy book. Having space travel is not enough to make something science fiction for me, and so far, 150 pages in, that's all there's been. Otherwise, it's been intense necromancy, like, people don't even have like projectile weapons. It's swords and knives. So for me, it has all of the natural tropey things of fantasy. You have these different houses that I'm maneuvering. Like, maybe some of the politics can be reminiscent of space opera sci-fi, but really, in terms of futuristic technology that I expect in science fiction, it's not there yet. Now it's only 150 pages in. In theory, things are supposed to pick up now. It was a bit of a slog getting through these first 150 pages. The descriptions are really hard for me to focus on. I do like the characters, but there's not much plot yet. So really, I've just been confused in a slow way, but not in a way that I like. We'll see. I don't dislike it. I'm excited to keep going. I think interesting things have happened that have forced two of our main characters to, I don't know, communicate more. So, yeah. My friend's actually already finished this, and when he initially started reading it, he was excited that it was good. So I'm excited to talk with him when I finish, hopefully in a day or two, because I already DNF'd Artemis that he wanted to talk about, so I should be a better friend. And I also started the audiobook Say Nothing. This is a nonfiction we chose for our May meeting in book club, and the only way I was getting this from the library was audiobook, but that's fine because I've been wanting to do nonfiction for audiobooks, and I just finished the First Law's first book, Blade Self, which was in my previous vlog, which I'll link in the cards if you're curious. And so this, I should have read the synopsis. From what I can tell, because I've listened to the first hour or so, is about a murder case that was solved with documents from Boston College about, I think, the role of the IRA in the murder of a woman in Ireland, or in Northern Ireland. I'm still, it's good to read listen to as an audiobook, but I'm also like constantly confusing who is on what side of everything. But yeah, it's so these first couple chapters we've really been setting the scene, 60s, 70s conflict in Northern Ireland. And, you know, I knew a little bit about this from some of my college days and some classes I'd taken, but really it's heavy descriptions of what is happening in these towns, and it's a lot. I can see why our moderator wanted us to read this, especially because we're in Boston, and something in Boston was why this story was able to be, you know, written. That's like a theme. We like read a whole book we didn't like because it mentioned like the pizza place across from the bookstore, so you know, that happens. But yeah, it took me a while to get used to the narrator because he has an Irish accent, so I mean, it's not an accent I'm used to, obviously. So I had to lower the speed from 1.5 to 1.25, which was fine. And yeah, so I think it's going to be a good next audiobook. Like I said, it's just really heavy stuff, but it's like a part documentary. Like, it's sometimes I feel like, you know, it's like I'm listening to a documentary, and other times I'm like listening to like a thriller murder mystery. So it's like a good combination of that. And yeah, I don't know. I know I'm going to pick something else up this week, but I don't know quite what yet. I know eventually I'll be starting Priory of the Orange Tree when Tomes Infinity is ready, but she is finishing Starless Sea right now, which I can relate. And I also just have some other novellas. Like, I might get to be taught if fortunate. You know, the owls start tomorrow, and that is my potions class, so maybe I'll try and work on that while I wait for Priory when I need a break from Gideon, because this writing style is just, at least, when it's interesting, but when it's not, I'm like rereading pages. So it's like a theme for me in the book SFF picks. Apparently, I just don't gel with the majority of people's writing styles. But yeah, so that's my update. Now I need to cook something because I ran out of my leftover chili. It is time for a check-in. So I am now about halfway through Gideon the Ninth, and we have changed tones. Like I feel like I'm playing a video game, like in the sense that now we've got this like horror video game element. Maybe not horror, but there's a lot of discovery by searching through a building, and there's a lot of dread now and fear. And there's a lot of skeletons, so I'm gonna say horror, but none of this is spoilery. It's just the tone has shifted, and now I'm more intrigued. I think I've put in a lot of work so far, so I'm happy that there's been some fun payoff. And as it is now officially the first day of April, I picked up my first book for the owls. Decided to start with my potions prompt, which is to be taught if fortunate, I think, is the name now that I'm blanking, by Becky Chambers. And I actually joined in on a hour-long quiet reading Zoom session today and read the first 50 pages, and I love it. Oh, it speaks to the scientist in me. It's just I've been highlighting these phrases she says. I don't know if Becky Chambers is a scientist. I should probably look that up, but the things she says are just so true if you're a scientist. The first section, so at least this novella, seems to be about a team of people who are sent from Earth to travel to places that probably have life, and then try and be observers that don't mess with the environment. So just, purely observational ecology. And so the first section was just the first planet they went to, and I like the interactions of the 4 people on this team. I'm remembering, this is showing me everything I liked from the first Wayfarers book, but it's a novella, so it's shorter, and I'm just having a really great time. I'm feeling really good. Like, it was really hard for me to, like, put it down and then get back into Gideon the Ninth, even though that's my primary read of the week. I want to get it done so I can talk to my friend about it. And now Gideon's picking up, and I just want to keep reading, but ESPN's showing the Cavs beat the Warriors, the 2016 game. That's very important to us Clevelanders, so I think I'm going to Zoom with some friends and watch that together. So that'll be some good time. So I'm going to do that, but this was my little quick check-in, and I will tell you more as I've read more. Well, it's Friday, and I finished Gideon the Ninth, and yeah, I like a lot of the concepts in this book. I liked a lot of the things. I don't think I liked the execution. I don't know, I just finished it, but I think a pretty good idea of how I didn't gel well with this is that the last 50 to 100 pages are really action-packed, and it was hard for me to finish it. Like, I kept being like, okay, I'll be done in an hour, and it took me like 3 hours to finish 100 pages. I kept putting it down. I put it down in the middle of a fight scene multiple times. So I think that's just a writing style and me problem. So, like, how she chose to execute how she was doing things. But at the same time, I read the epilogue, and this universe, this magic system, science-based-ish necromancy, it is intriguing. I also, though, still feel like in my brain, like, I don't know if I buy into a lot of some of the character relationships that developed. I don't know, I'll probably make a review about this, because that's what I do. I get confused about how I feel about a book, and I make a review to help me really dissect what's going on. But yeah, I finished it, so that means I've read all the debut books and all the sci-fi books, so I feel accomplished. And now, though, I'm going to, there's another, oh, hi, Lila. There's another silent reading session at 2, and I'm going to join in that and hopefully finish To Be Taught Fortunate, because I am still really enjoying that one. So, might check in if I finish that this afternoon. So yeah, see you guys in a bit. Well, I finished it, and man, so this is, I feel like I explained this in an earlier clip, but To Be Taught If Fortunate is just such a love letter to science. So that's why I loved it. And I like that it's brief. I feel like I would not enjoy this book as much if it was more than 135 pages. But it's only 135 pages, so I get to explore. Like, imagine if you were watching the movie Alien or, any of those space discovery space movies, and, they didn't suddenly all die because of some, like, parasite where, shit hit the fan. This is just literally a team who was meant to go observe, and they were able to do so. And you just get to go through that journey with them. There was one section that was oddly timely in a weird way. I was reading one of their places, and you got to see them all strained because of some isolation, and I thought that was wonderful. I don't normally annotate. I was highlighting phrases left and right. I love the title. At the end, there was this quote that was made in 1977. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. By, the UN Security General for the Voyager Golden Record. I guess I am like assuming this is true, but even if it's not, I really liked the quote because it was like, we step out of our solar system into the universe seeking only peace and friendship, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. And I don't know, just I'm very much a scientist who loves to learn for the sake of learning. I very much believe that you can never tell what's useful and not useful science. You never know what's going to spark someone's interest and come up with that next huge idea. There's no way to tell. The human brain is not like a linear algorithm. You can't figure that out. And this book just reminds me why science is awesome. And honestly, as a fifth-year grad student, I need that reminder once in a while. So, yeah, that was great. So now I just gotta figure out what I'm reading next. Still waiting to hear the call for Priory of the Orange Tree. So I need to pick up a different book for my owls. So I'm trying to decide what my mood is for. Or I could just read The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, because it's me. But we shall see. I have a lot of good options. I am leaning towards the Dragon Republic, because that'll be good for my charms class. And I don't know, I've been putting it off long enough. It's been on my Kindle for a very long time. But in my next check-in, I guess you will know what I've landed on. Well, it's been a little bit. It's Sunday. I think I last checked in Friday. That feels right. So I have decided to read the Dragon Republic, which is for my charms owl. And also in the evenings, I have been working on Sorcery of Thorns, which is what I picked for astronomy, which the prompt was to read it at night. So, and I think I like the mesh I've picked, because if you don't know, the Dragon Republic's the second in the Poppy War series, and although its writing style it's so digestible, like, I don't want to say it's like YA, because I don't think that does it justice. It's just a very great writing style, so it reads as fast for me as some YAs I read, but the themes are extremely dark, very war-driven. This one for sure is more about the aftermath of war, and also a different type of wars coming up. And so that darker themed book is nice to balance with this lighter YA. And Sorcery of Thorns so far has been great. The Dragon Republic, like I said, it's after the Poppy War, so I won't talk about what happens in the previous book, but we are dealing with repercussions from this first book. There were some serious dark decisions that were made in the first book, and our protagonist is having to deal with that. And I am liking how it's portrayed. I'm not going to say I like Rin. That's the name of her main character. I don't think I've ever really liked her, even in the first book. I don't think she's meant to be likable, but she's not unlikable like the characters are in the First Law trilogy, where people are like, none of them are great people. It's just more, she makes decisions I don't agree with, and I don't know. I don't hate her. I don't mind you having her be the main character to follow. I think it's actually really good to have such a flawed character be our centerpiece for a war story. And that's what this trilogy is. It really is a war story. And like I said earlier, I just love the writing style. I'm really liking all the themes. I'm like actually highlighting stuff as I'm going through. I'm liking Rin's personal struggles. I'm liking the themes of this bigger world and the writing style. I kind of wish I was more on board with what the plot is. I'm just not as into the plot. But that was the case in the first book. It's one of those rare situations where the plot doesn't matter as much to me because the writing style is so great. Normally it's the reverse. Normally it's like, oh, I love this idea, but like this writing style is so dense. This is just the flipped opposite for me, and I'm having a good time. Only a fourth of the way in, but it's been great. And this one I'm only 75 pages in. I'm using my Sill bookmark from Stormlight, and I'm really liking it. I kind of regret making it my astronomy because I kind of want to read it a lot more. But I also do like it as like my book for before bed because so far it seems like I've got what is her name? There's a main character, Elizabeth, who is this girl who's always lived in this great library with these magical books, grimoires, and she always had this affinity for them. Her dream is to be a warden, to guard this library, and then shit gets a little crazy. And she meets a sorcerer who is responsible for her after the events in the earlier book. And this sorcerer, she's really scared of because she's been raised her whole life not to trust them. And so I'm really liking that dynamic, but also I like that she has a lot of, her own personal agency. And I mean, I'm hoping there's going to be this romantic element because I really do like how I think the male sorcerers, Nathan and her, are like meshing. There's like this tension right now, but I don't know. I'm just hoping it has some good romance, and I'm liking the fantasy elements. And I like that it's a standalone. It's like really low entry. I picked this up because a lot of people really liked it in their end of the year videos, and it got nominated for the YA BookTube SFF, so even though I'm not going to read everything in that category, so I'm not going to vote, this was one that I still wanted to check out. And I'm having no regrets. I am enjoying it. And I have still continued listening to the nonfiction audiobook, Say Nothing, and I think I'm going to talk more about that at the end of the vlog, just because I know I'm going to listen to it tomorrow. And it's a nonfiction, so I do have thoughts, but I just kind of want to wait till I've read everything I want to read on it. I don't know. It's just weird commenting and rating or having opinions on a factual document, if that makes sense. So I'm going to touch base on that tomorrow, but I've also still been listening to that. I haven't just like dropped it. And yeah, today's been a weird day. I like woke up from like insomnia with like a horrible headache, but I still went for my walk, still played games virtually with one of my best friends that I haven't really actually chatted with for a few weeks. So yeah, and boyfriend's coming over, and we're going to watch Harry Potter 4. I think last time I texted in about that, we were on 2. Well, we have seen 3, and now we're going to watch 4, which is my favorite book. Not my favorite movie. 3 is my favorite movie. But I'm still excited. So yeah, check in a bit. Alright, this is the end of the reading vlog. So let's go over what I've done. So I read 4 books this week. I only finished, actually I think I read more than 4 books. I read 5 books, but I finished 2 of them. One of them was a novella. So at the beginning of the week, I started reading Gideon the Ninth. This is a debut and sci-fi nomination, and I'm probably going to do a full review on it. But it's not a horrible read, and I don't regret spending time on it. I'm actually going to chat with my friend about it later this week, and I think that'll be really good. I think it'll be good to have a conversation with somebody else about this book. And I also finished To Be Taught If Fortunate, which I already gushed about earlier in this vlog, but I'm still glowing from it. I think I was going through the BookTube SFF Discord, and some people really hated the ending, and I was over here just like loving the journey, so like I think I can see their complaints about the ending, but like I just did not care. And I think that's a thing with novellas for me, is books don't have to stick the landing as much because I haven't committed as much time, which is what I like. Novellas for me can really be enjoyed along the way without me having a bad fallout at the end, if that makes sense. And then I'm now still working on 3 books. So Say Nothing is the audiobook I've been working on this week, and I got through the first part. I don't actually know how many parts there are in it, but I finished the first portion. And this is a story about the IRA and Northern Ireland and kind of discovering the cause and reason behind the murder of this Northern Irish woman. And it's not light at all. I know I mentioned that way at the beginning, but now that I'm like 4.5 hours in, like the descriptions of these like 3 to 5 years, because it really focuses on the late 60s, early 70s time period. And I know the IRAs existed differently, and I'm sure we'll go into other portions later in the book, but that's the time period I've learned about so far. And it was such a war zone, and it's just not something you think about. It's definitely not something I learned about in depth. So I think in terms of like educating myself, this book's been amazing. Now, that said, I don't think I would have enjoyed physically reading this book at all. There are definitely portions where my brain almost checks out, where it's very, how nonfictions can just like throw facts at you really fast, and you're like, oh, calm down, that's like too many names and times and places. But for the most part, it keeps pretty good narrative flow while also kind of going documentary style in. So that book I'm really interested in keeping going. It's a really fascinating nonfiction. Like, I'm not even that tied to Ireland. I have no real ancestry, and it is something. It's not something you'd expect. And in this recent, like this time period is younger than my mother, like it's really weird. And then I have been working on Sorcery of Thrones. This is my like light read of the week, and it's really fun. I'm only like 150 pages in, so still like a fair bit to go. And I don't know, I'm liking a lot of it. So at first I thought for a second I wasn't going to like it because it was way too obvious. Sorry, hair. It was way too obvious who the villain was going to be, and I'm like, this better not try to be some sort of reveal thing, because he's obviously like the bad guy. And luckily we don't dwell on it. We don't pretend he's good. So that's nice. I was really worried for a second. Otherwise, like, I don't know. I'm liking Nathaniel. I'm liking Elizabeth. I'm kind of just enjoying the romantic fantasy YA story I'm getting. At least I think it's going to be romantic. It might not be, but so far it's following all those like trope indicators that we're all honed in on. So that's nice. And the last book I'll talk about is The Dragon Republic, which is the sequel to Poppy War. And I am highlighting and notating the shit out of this book on my Kindle. It is like, it's both really engrossing and easy to read and like super easy to go through, but also I will say the actual through plot line right now isn't like what's making read it. It's more the writing style for sure. And I do like all of the topics that are being talked about. So without going into spoilers, I can definitely say a moment that happened today that I really liked was, so this does take place, well, it's meant to be kind of analogous to our World War II history. And so there are a nation that is meant to be the Western nation, the white nation, and they come to the country for reasons I won't talk about because that doesn't matter right now. But our main character gets to see them, and boy, her descriptions of white people is phenomenal. I love turning it on its head. We always get the reverse perspective, right? But I love the description of white people from like a perspective of someone who thinks they're gross and don't look right. Because that's true, when you see something that's not normal to you, it's off-putting, especially with the history behind these, two nations. Like, there's always been this fear, propaganda towards them for maybe true or non-true reasons. That's like inconsequential. So I really like how we're exploring that. Oh, and then the Western culture, their high horse of we're just more evolved than you. Like some of it's heavy-handed, but also it's like, yes, it's heavy-handed, but like I don't know a book that's done it this well. So maybe there is a subtler way to do it, but if other books have been doing it, it's been too subtle. So it's also been in like scenes where it makes sense. I think also something though that I have been liking less is our main character is Rin, and she has a bunch of friends. And in the first book, so I can talk about this because this happens in like the first 100 pages of the first book, they all go to school together, and they're all in the same school. And in my memory, and it's been maybe 4 months, so maybe I'm wrong, they all did really well. Like, yes, they all had their strengths, but they were all really smart and did well. They all really pushed themselves. So Rin's not dumb. Rin's not naive. She's read the same history and strategic textbooks as everyone else, and I think it's more for the benefit of the reader, but constantly her friends are explaining the situation to her, and I'm just like, but she should know this. Like, there's no reason why you know this and she doesn't. This isn't like, You know, like this happens in Harry Potter where like Hermione knows stuff that Harry doesn't, even though they're both from the Muggle world. And that one you can believe because Hermione just reads so much more and Harry doesn't. Although I am still believe that Harry should have picked up at least a few more books about Voldemort, maybe. But that's a tangent. But in this case, Rin studied just as much as the rest of her friends. So like, that's like one thing that I'm like, this is kind of feels like a narrative device. Now, I don't hate it because I like knowing what's going on. I kind of like that it's not, I don't have to think for myself a lot, which is a pro and a con, right? Like right now I'm in a space where like focus is it's a finite commodity. So if someone can just tell me what they're trying to say, that's great. But I do sometimes also like novels that make me think more. So, all in all though, I've liked everything I've read this week for the most part. I mean, I think my least favorite was Gideon the Ninth, and that wasn't too bad. I mean, it just was like I said, I have to compile my thoughts. I have thoughts. Otherwise, that was my reading week, and I'm excited to start the next one. I think I'll be getting to the city we became soon. I think I'm gonna take it off my shelf. All right, well, that's this kind of long end of the vlog check-in. I hope you guys have been having a great reading week yourself. Let me know how it's been going for you. Even if you aren't reading, like, that's okay. If you're only playing Animal Crossing or watching TV, let me know what shows are good that I probably won't get to because I'm bad at watching TV, but still, I like to at least not fall off the face of the earth. Have a great day. Bye.